Hey guys, Trevor Crane here again, and on this short video, I'm going to talk to you about how you can actually use your book as a marketing tool and grow your book and your business. I know you're going to love it. Now, if you haven't seen the last video that I just made, I talked about how you can write a great book really fast, about why it's so important for you to actually get your book out now and how helpful that's going to be for you and how you're really missing out by not having your book available. So make sure you check out that video if you haven't. You're going to love it, and I give some simple steps to write it really fast to make sure you write that great book for your great, ideal, perfect client. Now, how can you market your book? Now, the cool thing about this is it's one step at a time. Now, I don't want you to think of all the things I'm about to share with you and have it overwhelm you. I remember when I was in my 20s, I decided to take my first trip out of the country. I just finished college and I packed up my backpack and I was going to take a world trip. I was on my way to Australia. I was living in Arizona and I bought a flight to Australia, and on the way I had to stop off in LA. And in LA, I landed in the domestic terminal and I put my backpack on that I had packed up with all the stuff that I thought I needed for this trip, and I had to walk from the domestic terminal to the international terminal. And on the way, I got so exhausted because my pack was so heavy, I actually had to stop along the way and unpack it and take things out and throw them away. I hadn't made it more than about 2 hours away from home, and I'd overpacked my backpack. Now, I'm sharing this with you because if you're going to take a journey from where you are, let's say blank page, or you have a book that you've been working on or want to write, and you need to go to bestseller, and we're talking about marketing it or writing it or monetizing it, if you try to understand it all in one shot, it's going to be overpacking your backpack, okay? I don't want to do that for you. It's overwhelming. You're going to have to sit down, dump, throw stuff away, okay? So I don't want to do that, but I'm giving you a great overview of the next 12 months of what you can do to really market your book and tell the world, because people think that they need to write a book like Ernest Hemingway. And they just go ahead and they got to go into the dark, they got to go into a cabin in the woods and just sit there and write. And that's not how you have to do it. On the last video, I talked to you about some strategies to write it fast. On this one, it's about making sure you get it done and in the marketing of it. So the first step, after you do the strategy stuff I talked about on the first video, is to just tell the world. I call it a declaration. You tell the world, I'm writing a book. Now, when my wife did this, she'd been teaching something called money parenting. And when she first discovered money parenting and decided what it was and created it as her concept, she started teaching it to parents of small children. Parents of children that are kindergarten or preschool. And when she first did that, she finally figured out that niche marketing. She broke 6 figures really fast. Now, she decided she was going to write a book about it and started interviewing people, a lot of women who are really successful, about her new project. See, she declared to the universe she was going to write her book. And what that led to were a lot of new relationships. She actually hasn't written that book yet. What she found was there was a better book for her to write. And so last year she published her book that became a #1 bestseller overnight. We published on the same day. And I'm just sharing with you, that's the first step. People think, oh, I need to figure it all out. Don't figure it out. I know you don't know your title yet. Or if you do know your title, you might want to revisit it because you want to share that with the world. The #1 thing here is tell the world and celebrate at every stage of your book. And I wrote a book last year with 20 other #1 best-selling authors called Your Epic Book Launch. I'm going to share with you those 7 phases or stages of your awesome launch of your book, telling the world. But in real short, it's tell the world. Celebrate every single phase, even the idea, I'm going to write a book. Even if you don't know the title, even if you don't know everything that's going to go in it, don't let that keep you back from marketing, because marketing is telling the world. See, a lot of people think I need to wait until my book is done, but that's not how Tesla did it. That's not how Elon Musk did it. I think they've sold over almost 500,000, I'm not sure what it is to date, 500,000 cars that they aren't going to be ready yet for over a year, okay? You can tell the world about your stuff before it's there, and you want to definitely do this with the book. Now, let's go through the phases of your launch. So once you tell the world that you're going to have a book, let's get to the real meat and potatoes here is when you pre-launch the book. Now, you may not know this, but similar to Elon Musk and the Tesla, can't believe these, 500,000 cars, isn't that amazing? Similar to that, you can pre-sell your book. That's the pre-launch. You're telling the world, if you do the stuff I shared with you on the last video, You'll understand what this book, who this book is for, what the name of the book is, the table of contents. You'll have an idea of it. You have the overview of what goes in this book. That's all you need to go on Amazon and pre-sell your book. And that also gives you a 90-day deadline to get it done. Now, this is the time that you can become a #1 best-selling author. So this is what we used with my daughter's book, for example. Now, my daughter wrote her first book when she was 7. On her 8th birthday, we did our pre-launch for that book, and she became a #1 best-selling author before we'd finalized all the details of her book. That was okay. So you can do it too, and you're not cheating the system. A lot of people are like, how could I sell something that I haven't already made? Well, what we are doing here is modeling the best businesses in the world. Apple did this with the iWatch, right? They told the world, hey, we're gonna build an iWatch sometime in the future. It's gonna be awesome. And then, when it got a little closer, they said, hey, you can now make orders for this and pre-order. Same thing, that's what the pre-launch of your book is, and you may not know it yet, but that's how you become that #1 best-selling author on Amazon, okay? So that's really cool. Now let's get into phase number 2. So you want to make sure that you stage these out, even if it's a week apart. You could choose a month or 3 months, but like I said, Amazon will give you a minimum of 90 days or a maximum of 90 days once you pre-launch it to say that you have to have the ebook ready. But then that's again, you're like, well, what do you mean? I market that and tell the world that I have an ebook coming out? Yes, that's what you do. It's another opportunity for press releases. It's another opportunity for you to get interviewed and for you to talk about it. You know, by the way, I remember I said blank page to bestseller in 90 days or less? You just became a best-selling author. Now you got to get the stuff down, and it's your ebook launch. It goes on Amazon, it goes on Kindle. You can go everywhere where you can put ebooks, but now you have a deadline and you can get it done. On the last video, I talked to you about how you get it done quickly, but here I'm in the middle of a park because I'm not doing this quietly in my room. I'm showing you marketing is being out there in the world, telling the world what you've got. So you celebrate, hey, I'm going to write a book. Then you celebrate the pre-launch. Hey, it's available for sale. Now the ebook is ready. And then the paperback comes next. Now you can go ahead and sometimes people choose a free launch. There's a lot of other strategies. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But and actually, here's another thing. You don't have to do these in order like I'm talking about. Depending on you and your business, you might want to start with different phases. I'm just covering them in sequence here, okay? So depending on how you want to do it, you might want to start with a different type of launch. So by the way, make sure you download the little PDF that shows you this so that you can go ahead and decide what's the best thing for you. Now let's get on to the paperback, because that's what my buddy Steve Napleton did. Steve Napleton told the world, I'm writing a book. And he called it Capture Clients, Close Deals. By the way, he changed the title several times during that 90 days when he was writing the content, because he was talking to the world. He was talking to his potential clients saying, hey, what do you want? And based on what they wanted, he ended up crafting the book for his ideal target client. Okay, so that was number 1. You gotta go ahead and get that done. Now, the e-launch, we're at the paperback. So his paperback book just came out. So he had his pre-launch, and then he had his e-launch, told the world, woohoo, and the book was available. Everybody's able to get it. Everybody who bought it on Amazon was able to receive it. Now the paperback launch is another opportunity. It's another press release. It could be another version of your book because you might have modified it by the time your paperback comes out. One of my clients, Michael Bunting, had his ebook come out, and then he wanted his paperback book to come out immediately. This is like, let's launch them at the same time. But we decided to stage them apart so that we can have an opportunity to tell the world it's here. And you don't want to miss that opportunity, even if it's for a week. You still get to celebrate it. It's coming. And think of marketing. Marketing typically has to hit people 8 to 12 times before they will buy from you. So make sure you don't forget that. See, it's not about you have to deliver it. You have to talk about it and create a buzz for it. So once your paperback is done, it's that physical version you can hold in your hand. And this weekend, Steve Napleton is going to be speaking for the first time. He ordered 300 of his books, and he's going to be launching those and celebrating the paperback launch of his book while he's speaking on stage in front of hundreds of people. And he's going to have his book there to either give away or sell. I'm not sure how he's doing it. Because another option for a launch is you can run a free book launch. Now you might be thinking, how can I make any money on my book if I have a free book launch? If I celebrate it for free? Now, one of my business partners, or actually he helped author my last book with me, not my last book, but a book last year called that, with Your Epic Book Launch. His name is Aaron Kennard, and he went ahead and gave his book away for free for 18 months. Just check that out. He gave it free for 18 months. He has hundreds of reviews about his book, The Positive Thinking Secret. Great book. It tells his story. Well, here's what happened in 18 months. He got 15,000 people on his list that said, hey, I want to know more about you, and can you help me more? 12,000 of them stayed on his list, and then he started offering them things for sale. So he started making money on the back end, selling hundreds and thousands of dollars worth of products and services instead of just his book. Now I believe his book actually does have a fee on it because he's established his brand a little more, and he already has his following. But it's another version of a launch, and Amazon will partner with you during a free book launch. It's phenomenal. You'll get all this new buzz and energy. Okay, so we've covered a few of them. The declaration part doesn't even count. But let's go on to the next one. Pre-launch, e-launch, paperback launch, free launch. Another thing that you can do is get your audiobook out. Now, I have a friend of mine who's written several books, and he told me he makes 10 to 50 times more sales on Audible with his audiobook than he does with his paperback. It's the same content, and he didn't read it. He said, well, I didn't have time to read it. I hired someone to do it, and they didn't pay them much money, but they did the audiobook, and he sells more on Audible of his same book than he does in the paperback form, and people spend more money on it. So that's really key. And now your book is in all these different formats, okay? So it's a great tool. Now, let me go back to that free book launch again. Another friend of mine last year was giving his book away for free, and he offered it as a free plus shipping offer. So he'd ship them the physical book, and then they would cover $8 for shipping or $7 for shipping, something like that. That would then be a tripwire where they would trip into spending some money with him. He'd then make them an offer. He gave his free book away last year, and if you're thinking, I'll never make any money if I'm giving my book away for free, he made $10 million. $10 million by using his book as a free giveaway. So don't discount these different launches and how you can use them in your marketing. Okay, let's go over the last couple. We talked about audiobook. Let's do another version of this, is your podcast. So I have a friend of mine, and he's on my publishing team. He's one of the co-authors of Your Epic Book Launch. His name is John Cody. And he decided that to write his book, he would start with a podcast launch. He would start with it. Now, you don't have to do it in that sequence, but for him, it was best. If you want to do the other steps and then do your podcast, you can as well. But it's the same content, or it's the same gist of the content, except now you're going to be talking about it and interacting. Now, John Cody, started a podcast in an area he was not an expert in. Check this out. He wrote a book based on the podcast where he interviewed the experts. His book is called Healthcare Elsewhere. That's also his podcast. So what he did is he found all the people that were experts at doing medical tourism, which he didn't even know what existed a year or two prior to starting this. But he decided he'd interview all of them, and he became an expert just by interviewing them. He took those interviews, he transcribed them, and probably juiced them up a little bit into making a book that he then used as a hardback cover. That's another one of your launches, and he has leveraged that into a multi-seven-figure income. Boom! We're talking about marketing here, okay? And if I'm a little bit wrong on his numbers, then forgive me. But his numbers are huge, and he's done a phenomenal job. Okay, so now we've gone through them. We've got a podcast launch. That's another chance for you to tell the world, gain a list, and make a difference with your message. Now, the last one I cover here is your hardcover. And your hardcover is that like if you're Stephen King, you might want to start with the hardcover. That's how Tony Robbins did it. Tony Robbins' new book, Money Master the Game, was first a hardcover book. But check it out. He used some of the strategies I teach in our bestseller Big Business program to partner with a nonprofit company, something that I'll share with you and teach with you if you take my program, and I'll help you go from blank page to bestseller in 90 days or less. And he partnered with a for-profit company, one that he ended up donating anybody who bought one of his books. And he said, I'll give it to you for free, pay for shipping, but I'll match that shipping price, and I'll match that and double it, or whatever he said. And he gave millions away, $20 million or something, to Feeding America. But on the back end, he had a profit partner. I'm not going to tell you how that whole thing worked out, but he made a lot of money by giving his book away. But it was a hardback book, and it's solid, man. It's this big book, and it looks great in the right circumstances. And it is another opportunity for you to launch your book so that every month or every other month for a year or more, you can be celebrating this book instead of quietly doing it behind the scenes where nobody knows about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, make sure if you haven't signed up for my webinar yet, make sure you do that. And on the next webinar, on the next video, you're gonna love it because I'm gonna talk about how you monetize your book, and I go over 12 specific things that'll help you make 6 to 7 figures extra. Imagine adding extra income to what you're doing with the book. And if you didn't hear my story from the first video that I made, my wife and I tripled our income with the power of books and some of the strategies I'm going to be sharing with you. And I can't wait to work with you on our Bestseller Big Business program and to see you on the webinar that's coming up. We're going to cover even more awesomeness to help you get your book out there and change the world. I'll see you on the next video.